When I first started making music on the MPC, I'm not gonna lie, it was fucking confusing. Until I started focusing on this one thing. For the first few days of me getting my MPC, I was pretty much just sitting here finger fucking the shit out of this thing until I made something that sounded somewhat like music. I finally managed to make my first little loop, and then I just kind of sat there wondering, okay, like, now what? That's when I really just started to think about, like, how is a song actually put together? I found that once I started focusing on learning a little bit about song structure, that was when I was able to really kind of wrap my head around how the MPC workflow kind of works. I know that may sound pretty silly, but for someone that doesn't have any kind of formal music education or background, this was a pretty big eye-opener for me. So in this video, I'm going to show you how this seriously helped me cut down on my learning curve with the MPC. So what exactly is a song? Like, why isn't my little loop considered a song? Well, a song is kind of like a story, and a story consists of a beginning, a middle, and an end. My little loop that I made, that's all fine and dandy, but like that's like me pressing play in the middle of a movie and, you know, expecting you to kind of understand what's going on without having any kind of context of how we got there or kind of how we're going to end. A song isn't just a loop that just plays over and over and over. Like, that would just drive anyone insane, right? So it's more of a combination of sections that end up creating a whole story. Song structure can take many different forms and it can get super complicated. So for the sake of simplicity, we'll just start with something super simple. And like I said, I'm no music theory master here. I don't have any education or background in this. This is actually the first instrument I've ever tried to learn. So I'm not going to try and attempt to teach you everything there is to know about song structure. So here's a few videos that I found that were really good at explaining this, and they got really deep and detailed, and it'll show you kind of the big picture of how complicated song structure can get. So let's say you got a basic little loop going on. You know, you created like a 2 or 4 bar or whatever loop that, you know, it sounds good, you're vibing it, everything's good, but now you're kind of like, well, how can I build on this? Like, how can I turn this into something that, you know, resembles an actual song, like a full story, right? Okay, so here's kind of the simplest way to go about it. Think of it like sections to a movie. In a movie, you have, you know, just very simply, you have kind of the start of the movie. You meet all the characters and you kind of get an idea of where it's going, and then you have the main, you know, section of the movie, and then you have the end, and you kind of unwind it, and that's it, right? So there's kind of 3 main sections. So if we're thinking about this in terms of building a song, which, you know, kind of like a story, you got your intro, and that's kind of where you start introducing the sounds that you're going to be bringing into your song, and then you got your main section, which is also referred to as the chorus, and that's kind of where all your sounds are going to come together into the main kind of idea of your song. And then you have your outro, and that's where you kind of, you know, start wrapping things up and unwinding it and slowly unraveling from the main section or the chorus to kind of come to a nice smooth landing, right? So yeah, you don't need to get fancy. Just like I did, I just kind of started with these 3 sections and thought about it like that, and then just kind of, you know, build upon that in the future. Okay, so I'll just try and show you an example from something I've made, and, you know, it's nothing special, but at least, you know, I can kind of get the point across here. So
birds in the sky, you passing by. When I'm with you, there's nothing else I wanna do, oh baby.
So hopefully you could kind of see how, I kind of built it up with vocals and then some drums and then added on, some horns and trumpets. By the end, it just started slowly kind of cutting it back and then unwinding it into the outro. So yeah, like I think really just the important thing that's really helped me with my journey towards mastering the MPC is just, simply being aware of song structure. Like just, it really opened my eyes to so many more elements to add to my projects and just making them sound way more interesting, and like investing more time into learning song structure has also really helped me understand more on why there's certain features and options on the MPC. Like before I just, I had no clue why half these buttons were here, and without, kind of understanding something about song structure, it makes it hard to have any kind of reference point to what half these things do on the MPC, right? Like for example, like I had no clue what I would use, like sequences or song mode or track mute or even, like arrangement mode, all this stuff, right? So but now, yeah, like I use these functions all the time now, and it's because I've spent a little bit of time kind of learning about song structure and how to utilize some of these things on the MPC to build out these ideas. Also, I find that when I'm listening to music, I'm listening to it a lot more actively. Like I'm trying to kind of figure out how they went about putting together their songs. So I don't know, it just kind of gives me more ideas for projects that I'm working on. So to recap on how this has kind of helped me cut the learning curve down with the MPC and hopefully help you too, think more in kind of a reverse engineer way and think about the end project. Work your way backwards from there, and the MPC and the workflow will start to make more sense to you. Learn more about song structure. You don't need to get a degree in music theory or anything like that, but just kind of learn some basics, and then you can kind of build up from there. Actively start listening to music and how they kind of go about structuring their songs. It might just give you some ideas for your own projects. So now that we've learned a little bit more about song structure and how we can use it to make our music a little bit more interesting, check out this next video here, and I'll show you this really cool trick I just found on how to do this easily with the MPC.